Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk Special, The Haunting of Hill House Aftershow. On a normal episode of the podcast, we would review and discuss one horror film in great detail, but for this series of 10 episodes, we will be having an opinionated and accidentally funny, hopefully, discussion on each episode of The Haunting of Hill House. Your expert hosts each week are the man who sits across from me, Dr. Bryce Hanson! Who holds a PhD in spookology, and me, Professor David Day, the foremost expert in scare no-nos. So, with no further ado, The Haunting of Hill House Aftershow with Horror Movie Talk. We've got a great show for you today. This is actually going to be, I think, a pretty short episode, because this is about episode 8, Witness Marks. I do love the kind of the premise for the title of this episode, which we will get into in a little bit. This episode marks the beginning of the end of the series. I think that's kind of fair to say. Luke has officially gone missing, taken Shirley's credit card and dipped out.
And Theo's car. Jeep.
This is exclusively, aside from the flashbacks to the past, this is shot in Halloween. And while Steve and Hugh try to go out and find where Luke has gone with his stolen money and stolen car, Theo and Shirley are at the mortuary dealing with some nefarious goings-on. So thanks again for listening, and let's get into spoilers. Spoilers. So, this episode so this is a really straightforward episode, like I was saying before. It's basically the premise is let's very directly rehash the past in the present. Let's talk about what happened in the past and the present. And the two conversations going on are, of course, between Steve and his dad, Hugh, and Theo and her sister, Shirley.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty Steven-focused episode. The first episode was Steven-focused, but it was Steven in the present.
Right.
And showing him his success today. And this one is really telling, like, what Steven's experience as a kid was that we kind of have seen in bits and pieces.
But not only that, the flip side of his success as an adult. Right. Like his failings.
Right.
Which are significant and embarrassing to him.
This is the episode where we see, like, oh, Steven is kind of a piece of shit. Like, I'm sorry,
That's
is.
So rude.
Can you imagine doing a worse thing to someone that Steven did to his wife?
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
It is horrifying. The idea of knowing that someone wanted to have kids and you entered into marriage. You went through...
Seeing some parallels.
An engagement.
My own life.
You went through, courtship.
Lies.
Engagement. Marriage. And years of marriage and talking about children.
Wow. This is all... Oh, it's really coming into laser focus for me here in my own life.
And then you're just like, well, never came up.
Yeah.
I just got kind of locked in. Like, I can't... That is the shittiest thing.
Of course, we're skipping ahead here, and what we're talking about is right out of high school, Steven got a vasectomy, and he's impotent on his own choice, and he never told his wife who wants kids.
He felt
the whole time.
He felt that his bloodline was so tainted that he didn't want to bring in people into the world, which sounds suspect to me. It felt more like maybe just didn't want to have kids.
That's a baseless. It's clearly that. I mean, his whole motivation through this whole show has been to tell everyone how fucked in the head they are.
Right.
To be like, your genes are messed up, mine are messed up. We got to be on constant alert to keep our minds straight, or else we're going to be haunted by the ghosts that killed our mother.
Yeah. So, and it opens up with them in like the fertility appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like completely checked out, and he's seeing, his mom's ghost through the frosted window.
Is it his mom's ghost, or I think it's Nell. I think he sees Nell.
Yeah, it was a red dress. I think Yeah, maybe it was Nell. Maybe because
once
Nell
it
is
got
seen
real
in the
close,
red
it looked like Nell's face. But yeah, I can see how. I mean, it looked like a woman through really weird glass.
Yeah. So he's checked out, and I wonder what that conversation went through after he had his motility test.
Motility? Look at you. What a
Well, it's the... You've never had a sperm sample taken?
I don't think so. I'm about to give one following, so I just had a vasectomy and you gotta shoot 25 thick ropey loads. And then you gotta give a sample to see how good your troops are following that. So I'm about to give my first.
Man, I'll tell you what. All right, aside people. I mean, this is for people new to horror movie talk. Prepare to be offended. We're going to talk about bodily functions.
Yeah, and it's going to be the male, like 50% of the world. It's just going to be a rough time.
We're alienating 50% of the world. So yeah, that is one of the most stressful experiences. Not really the most stressful, but surprisingly stressful is getting a sperm sample, because they're like, okay, you got to jizz in this cup. It has to make it back to the doctor within like 40 minutes. So it's like
after you come.
So, and it's got to be like, you can't touch the cup. You got to, clean off your stuff, which is like, sure. But like, it's a lot of strange rules while you're trying to come. It's like, all right, I'm about there, but did I touch the side of this cup? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh no.
You can't touch the side of the cup?
No.
What?
Because it'll taint it.
The inside of the cup.
Or wherever. I mean, you gotta not touch the inside. They give you some rules. And then...
Wow, they just sent me home with a bottle.
If you live like 20 minutes away from the hospital or whatever, and like... And there's a line, you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, you're doing the math in your head, and you're like, I can't do this at home and fully know that I'm going to get there in time.
What was the circumstance where you had to give a motility test?
Oh, I think we had been trying to get pregnant, and...
Pregante?
I can't even remember if we were having that hard of a time or anything, but there was always a lot of fear around, can we have kids? And it was unfounded. Completely. But both our mothers have had difficulty having kids, and so it's like kind of a innate fear, I guess.
I am pregnant last 5 weeks, so can I start sex?
And I can't remember the circumstance, but anyways, they wanted a sperm sample, so I gave it to them. And what had was I had to do it in the hospital, and that's horrible too. Masturbating in a public stall.
Oh, dude, are you kidding
I mean,
me?
Not that I haven't, but I mean, it's like it
wasn't your proudest wank.
It's a weird pressure. I mean, it's usually in a restroom that you have like a good sense of. You're like, okay, like I've been in here before. I know that like the frequency in which people are coming in here at certain times.
Yeah,
like,
did you have somebody standing outside the door or something like that?
No.
There's a guy jerking off inside, don't go in there.
But also knowing that you're like within minutes, you're going to be handing off this cup with jizz in it to some nurse.
You got a wink when you hand it off. Yeah.
I know what you just did. Like, my dirty business.
It would not bother me.
But anyways, he's got to do that and then hand this cup over that he knows has absolutely zero sperm in it.
He's been found out.
And that never comes up. That was never addressed.
Yeah, which is probably for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I said, Luke has left. And they've gone to look for him. Steve with his dad have gone to look for Luke, and this is the episode where, well, there's a few episodes where young Steve is just dying for stuff to do with his dad. He's like, let me help, and this is the one where he was told to unplug the fan. I didn't get how this injury happened.
No, this was before. That happened before. I think that was in my episode.
Oh, the one where Hugh got cut.
Maybe I'm not remembering.
They're all
I'm
running
sorry.
together.
Yeah.
They're all running together for me. And so, listeners, if we are incorrect about something, we're only human, and we are very embarrassed about being wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
you don't have to let us. You don't have to give us a 1-star review to let us know that you know that we're wrong.
We know that we're wrong.
You can just let us be wrong. It's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so
you didn't pay for it.
So I don't get how this injury happened. In any event, I want to talk about this injury to Hugh because he reaches his hand into a fan that's running full blast. He can see that it hasn't stopped.
Well, he's looking off. He's looking off into the middle distance because he's like, the house is making him hallucinate kind of thing.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that cut. Man, my dad is the master of traumatic laceration injuries. I've seen gushing blood come out of this man multiple times. Well, I've seen
my nuts just sucked into my body.
So he's an arborist, and so he uses a lot of saws and stuff. And even the little hand saws are just remarkably sharp. And one time he was cutting through a branch, and he came down on the inside of his wrist and almost severed all of his tendons to his fingers. Blood just rocketing out of him. I mean, this man has suffered a lot of injuries, so I immediately, once I saw Hugh's injury, was like, that's bullshit, wiener stuff. this man does not know injury. But he handled it like a pro, so whatever. Anyway, so my dad's stronger than your dad.
Okay.
And I kind of like what's going on in the car between Steve and his dad. Steve is so jaded and angry at the world, and his dad's like, man, I really feel sorry for you. And like, and trying to kind of like give his son, Steve, like a point of like everything, like, life can be good. Like, and you can have a good relationship with your wife. And I really wish that for you. And he tells that touching story in the car about kind of being on a team with his mom, like being like, we were a team, and she was one side and I was the other. She was kind of untethered and I was what tethered her, and we both needed each other to kind of balance out in the middle.
Right. There was a reveal that basically they had a split that Stephen didn't remember because he was just a baby.
Yeah. And
this is kind of like a really common thing for people that are married for a long time. Like, I think it's way more common than people realize.
What's that?
Having a split and then coming back together. I think my parents had that. Maybe I'm just biased because it happened to my parents.
My parents. Yeah, it happened to my parents.
And, it's something that happens in your kid's childhood sometimes, and it's confusing.
It's remarkably hard to be around the same person for your whole life. I mean, There's bound to be a disagreement big enough to at least make you want to have some space.
Right.
During that time. So,
I mean, we have disagreements between us, and we're only in here for like a couple hours a week.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a little bit of a different dynamic there, two dudes less agreeable than a dude and a woman.
Well, yeah. And you don't suck my dick. So there's kind of like just a baseline.
I didn't know the offer was out there.
So I mean, living with someone for an extended amount of time, you just stuff will bother you that's not going to change.
Yeah, and that has happened.
Continue not changing.
That has happened
while it still bothers you more and more
in Stephen's life, because he tells his dad, we're split up. I got a vasectomy when I was 18, and his dad's like, whoa.
Oh, yeah, his dad's reaction to that was like, wow, that is...
I feel sorry for you, son. It's like... And it's...
And, honestly, that's kind of weird to say that, like, it's one of the most horrible things to do to a person, but also... if you get divorced because of it, at least there's no kids.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they both can move on and be completely strings unattached after that point.
Yeah, to the extent that's able, to the extent that you're able to, walk away with from someone who you've spent a lot of your life with. But that's actually a good point. Doesn't make it any better, but
no.
It does take some of the back end responsibility away, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, now we've made things miserable for a third person who's blameless in this whole thing. And
yeah. That's
just irresponsible and cruel.
Yeah.
So I guess bravo on the back end, Steve. So we get a little bit closer. Oh man, the Halloween moment at the mortuary is
the ding dong ditch.
Oh my God, this is the most effective scare in the whole thing for me. And the other most effective scare in this thing for me. So when Theo and Shirley are in the mortuary, or whatever you call it, the funeral home or whatever it is, and somebody keeps ringing the doorbell and then knocking on the door
and knocking everywhere, like the whole house is shaking. Yeah,
I get chills just thinking about it. This is so effective. And
can you imagine being more helpless and like confused to where like, this is never going to stop. I'm going to go insane.
Oh my God, dude. I'm alarmed. I am alarmed. And then Theo's explanation of what happened with Shirley's husband is okay.
Yeah, another one of those great monologues.
So not only a great monologue, but I really I have a personal story that allows me to have great empathy or sympathy, or like I relate to her story of this darkness, just kind of enveloping her. She says, I touched Nell, and then my power, the thing that allows me to feel stuff, just went numb. It just went dead. I couldn't feel anything, and I was being swallowed by the nothing, like in the never-ending story. And it was awful. And then, in this closet, I'm kind of drunk. The lights go out. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, my God, is this what being dead is like? Just a never-ending, constant flow of nothing. And so my first experience getting high with marijuana was, so I had, for many years, watched severe potheads. All my best friends were big stoners. Take these big rips from pipes or bongs or whatever, and so I thought the way you do this is you take huge rips of marijuana, and then you get high that way. So I did it once, and I was real high, and I didn't know it yet because I had never been high before. And then I was like, let me hit it again. I took another hit, and I went into
the stratosphere.
I went into like nothing, like time,
into the sunken place.
It turned into a massive panic attack. I know this is going to sound weird, but it felt like I experienced infinity. There's no way to explain it other than that. I know that's a very unfulfilling explanation, but you're going to have to deal with it. Otherwise, this is going to be a really long story. And then I remember, and then my vision was very choppy. Like I got 1 frame per second for 1 frame per every 10 seconds. Like, and then it just hung there. And I know it wasn't laced with anything. I was just bonkers out of my mind, way too high, and in the middle of a massive panic attack. Massive panic attack. And I thought...
So was the panic attack brought on
yes.
by the high, or was it...
The panic attack was probably ostensibly brought on by me forgetting to breathe. Like I just stopped breathing for a long time, but maintain consciousness. And, it's hard to know. But anyway, so I saw my wife, then girlfriend, maybe walking away from me, and this frame got stuck in my head of her walking away from me. And I was like, oh, I've gone to hell. And this is what it is the people who I love the most with their back turned to me, walking away from me forever. And it was such a low place. And I remember it so vividly and being so saturated with dread and this deep sadness of like, oh, I'll never have happiness again. Like this is the rest of eternity. And I'm going to be stuck here in this loveless, horrible place, watching the person I most love walk away from me. And it was brutal. So this monologue that she gives was just like right on point for me. And I wonder if other people have like similar relatable feelings, because her monologue was so scary to me that I was just like, it was visceral for me. But anyway, there's no one there after all the knocking and all that stuff. And that's somehow the worst thing there could possibly be. If there was a serial killer on the other side of the door, at least it would be a serial killer and not nothing.
Right. So this whole time they're trying to track Luke because they know that if he spends any money on the card that they'll be able to be notified where he spent money.
Yeah, and so finally he shows up at a gas station and he has bought, once they tell their brother and dad, oh, he bought something at this gas station, they're able to surmise, oh, he's heading to Hill House. And once they get to the gas station, they're like, oh, he bought 5 gallons of gas. So he's in gallon cans, so he's going to go burn the house down. And then the dad kind of gives the, I really liked his, it's such an ominous thing to say. He said, our family is like an unfinished meal to that house. Mm-hmm. He got mom, he's got now, or it's got mom, it's got now, and now it's reaching out to the rest of us. And Steve, you're the worst person to go there.
Right.
Steve's like, what the heck are you talking about? And then his dad reminds him of the story of him being a little kid that he had recounted.
Yeah, because he had read Stephen's book, and he found like several things in there where he's like, you saw ghosts and you don't realize it at all. Like you're completely blind to the dangers of the house, basically.
Right. You have no frame of reference, and like the other ones at least see all the alarming things.
Right.
You can't even see it. And his story,
or when he sees it, he doesn't accept it.
Right. He doesn't accept it, or he doesn't see it for what it is.
Yeah, we're shown him seeing things and strange things happening around him, and he's just explains them away or whatever. I mean, he saw Nell and his mother in the funeral home, and he's like, nope.
Yeah.
And anyways, the title of the episode
he goes, this is my illness.
Right. The title of the episode is about the story that his dad tells him of, he read in the book of how he walked past a guy working on the grandfather clock, which is a weird thing to put in a novel, but and he said, yeah, there was no one ever worked on that grandfather clock.
Yeah.
Like some guy in overalls with a handlebar mustache. It's like, no, when someone works on a grandfather clock, or you have a grandfather clock that's been worked on over, hundreds of years or whatever, you don't always have a record of what's been done with it. So you have to look at the scrapes and scratches on the inside of the clock to see what work has been done and to kind of deduce. And those marks are called witness marks. And he's basically talks about how, there's these, it's drawing, it doesn't explicitly draw a parallel, but really what the parallel you're trying to draw is the ghosts in this house are the witness marks of like what's happened in the house, and showing you like, that's basically what haunting is showing the
past,
the
of
after
place.
effects. Yeah.
Yeah, the past of the place and the people that inhabited it at one time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I did not draw that parallel necessarily. That's really interesting. So let's see here. He also says, "I never built you kids a treehouse."
Yeah,
and that's like,
yeah, you're starting to like discover more about like, wait a minute, there's like rooms in this house to where they don't really exist.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if before this episode there was ever a thing where, I think in the next episode,
that alludes
Liv talks about like, I'm going to go to my reading room. And one of the kids is like, reading room.
Yeah.
But this is like the first real evidence of like, there was never a treehouse.
Right.
Like we were there a couple months to flip it. Why would I build my children a treehouse?
Yeah.
I had enough stuff to do. Like, isn't that on the surface not making any sense whatsoever to you? Like, we'll go to the house and you'll see there's no treehouse. And Steven's like, So it's another like piece of evidence of like, yeah, he doesn't realize at all what he's seen. And I think he's been in the treehouse.
Yeah.
Like he went and got Luke from the treehouse.
The only people who I can ever recall being in the treehouse was Steve and Luke.
Right.
Like 2 or 3 times. Why? I can't recall the reason for Shirley and Theo driving in the car. Are they heading to the house as well?
So what happens is after the funeral home gets like basically attacked from all sides by ghosts, it stops and they're kind of looking at each other, and then her phone rings, and it's the bank telling her Luke has used the card, and it's at this gas station in this certain city, and they call, and they all understand that this gas station is on the way to Hill House. Yeah. And so they both get in the car and start driving towards Hill House. And as they're driving, they're having a big
old argument about
this is the most frightening jump scare
because it comes completely out of left field.
Oh my god, it's so great. It's like the pinnacle of their fight. They're screaming at each other about like whatever, and they're like in this huge fight, and then all of a sudden just Nell's face shoots out from the back of the car and just is screaming, and then they veer off the road and have a little...
Filmmakers and people who want to become filmmakers, take notes.
Yeah.
This is how you do a jump scare. You don't build tension in a predictable way.
Right.
You do it in an unpredictable way. You have a bunch of fight. In this case, they built this big fight. There's a bunch of tension between the two characters, and you're invested in it emotionally. You're not invested in it because it could potentially be spooky. You're invested in this scene because it's so rapturing. It's so interesting, and it's so visceral. And then, bang, from left field comes the actual scare.
Yeah.
Whew, wow. Just the best scare I've ever seen.
I was like almost hyperventilating for a couple minutes after that. I was just like,
I know. Yeah.
It was, I was like, that was the night that I had the headphones on and I was like watching very closely, fully invested. And I was just like, holy shit. I was so surprised at my reaction and how like much my heartbeat went through the roof.
It was alarming.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was spectacular. And then of course we have the end scene with Luke at the Hill House, getting ready to burn it down. And then he gets his head grabbed by, I think, Nell. It looks kind of like Nell, but it might be Abigail. Remember his pretend friend from childhood?
No, I mean, Abigail was a little child.
Okay.
So I don't think it was her.
Nell, I think.
Yeah,
it just didn't quite look like Nell. It kind of looked like Nell, but
I think it might have been his mom. I can't remember. It's been a couple days since I've seen it.
Yeah,
I think it might have been his mom.
In any event,
or one of the old. It might have been Poppy.
Poppy,
the flapper ghost.
Oh no, it wasn't her. It was a young woman-ish, I think. Anyway, so that's how the episode ends. And this was a pretty, I think this was the shortest of all the episodes, at something like 40 minutes. So thank you for listening to our after show of The Haunting of Hill House. If
we didn't, sorry, I just ruined it, but we didn't mention what Luke was doing there.
He was getting ready to burn it down.
He was getting ready to, he did light the fire and it just went, ooh.
Oh yeah.
It like, he had poured out like 5 or 10 gallons of gasoline all in the front room and up the stairs and stuff. He lit it. He actually lit it. And it just had like a half-hearted blue fire and then immediately went out.
Whoa, I didn't catch that.
You didn't?
Well, I mean, I watched this and I was so tired. But but to be honest with you, I do remember that from my first viewing and that being impactful. Wow. Yeah, so the house has like a built-in fire prevention system.
Yeah.
A little suppression system.
It protects itself. You know, it's strange. You know, Mike Flanagan did Dr. Sleep after this.
And which has an ending. Well, not too many spoilers for Dr. Sleep. Great movie.
It's like literally the same concept of the Overlook, of the Overlook eating people.
Right.
and eating souls and like being predatory as a house.
Yeah.
In The Shining and Dr. Sleep, and the Hill House doing the exact same thing. It has a hunger and it eats people up and it has like powers to protect itself.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's true. Yeah, I did kind of think about that a little bit because I was remembering how the ending of Dr. Sleep happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, very similar to the ending of this.
Yeah.
Anywho, so thank you again for listening to our after show of The Haunting of Hill House. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating on Apple Podcasts. That helps us out a lot. Make sure to share this with a friend if you like the show. And if you'd like to support us, you can do so by heading on over to our website, horrormovietalk.com, and clicking on either of the links at the top of the header. It says Patreon or buy stuff on Amazon. If you use that link to buy stuff on Amazon, it just takes you directly to Amazon. Everything you buy, we get a little bit of a kickback from that at no extra cost to you. And of course, our Patreon has a bunch of extra content for you to consume at your leisure. Special thanks to Maxwell.R.Allen for the intro music. And if you'd like to share your opinions with the show, you can do so by calling us at our voicemail line at 682-253-4468. Thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll see you for episode 9. We love you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have you actually seen rats?